Iwer George on Instagram. Share the live. Iwer TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Broadcasting from Trinidad to the world. The Street 919FM.com. News from the Street 919FM.com. Here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 12 o'clock news on the Street 919 FM and online Facebook and YouTube, sponsored by the Sea Champion. In the headlines, government in talks with the U.S. on COVID-19 vaccine donation. COVID cases in South Trinidad remain high. COVID kills another police officer. And internationally, Italy to lift mandatory face masks outdoors as pandemic slows. And now the news in detail. Discussions are taking place between this country's government and the U.S. government on TNT's eligibility to qualify under a $500 million COVID-19 vaccine donation to developing countries. This was revealed by Health Minister Terence Singh in response to a question posed to him during Monday's sitting of the Senate. He was asked to respond to a report quoting the Gavi Vaccine Alliance as stating that Trinidad and Tobago doesn't qualify for vaccines being donated by the U.S. to developing countries.
It's actively being discussed amongst the following parties: the White House, PAHO, CARFA, the Office of the Prime Minister, and the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs.
The minister also stated that the government has been acting since day one to procure vaccines approved by the WHO, either through COVAX bilaterally or the African Medicines Council or any other platform.
This government has had many irons in the fire, and it was that reason we have imported into the country 200,000 doses of Sinopharm vaccines last week. We also have another 300,000 coming in July. So our bilateral talks are paying rich dividends.
The minister, however, could not provide a time frame for the conclusion of these discussions, but indicated that he's been advised that the matter is under active consideration by all parties. In more news, the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Roshan Parasram, says while the number of COVID-19 cases across the country has been decreasing, overall, infection rates in South Trinidad remain high. At Monday's virus update, Dr. Parasram displayed graphs and explained that the numbers remain high in certain areas, starting with Tobago.
Got Tobago, accounting for 2% of the cases in the community. Victoria, 25.3% is still the highest. St. Patrick, 12.0%. New River Mayaro stands at 1.4%. Caroni, 17.6%. St. George West, 12.4%. St. George Central, 15.7%.
Meanwhile, manager of the Geographic Information System, Roshan Singh, stated that new virus infections are showing up even in rural areas.
That cases are again spread across the entire country, with most communities across all of the counties being affected. In fact, we have approximately 500 out of 590 or thereabout communities having recorded at least one case each. So it means that most of the communities in the country have recorded at least one case, with many communities recording upwards of 50.
In more news, COVID-19 has claimed the life of yet another police officer. PC Frankie Sammy passed away yesterday, 21st of June, at the Kuva Medical and Multi-Training Facility. He was last attached to the TTPS Central Division. PC Sammy joined the police service on August 3rd, 2010. He served with honor for over 10 years. At the time of his death, Officer Sammy was on study leave. PC Sammy was one of the 10 people who died from the deadly virus, as reported Monday at the Ministry of Health's virus update. The other victims have been identified as 2 elderly males, 4 elderly females, 1 middle-aged male and 2 middle-aged females, all with comorbidities, as well as 1 middle-aged female without comorbidities. The COVID-19 death toll is now 747. Meanwhile, the ministry said 148 new infections have been registered from samples taken between June 17th and June 20th. Finally, on the international scene, people in Italy will no longer have to wear face masks outdoors from June 28th, the government has said, as COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations decline in one of Europe's worst-hit countries by the pandemic. Mandatory face masks were imposed in October last year when the country was entering a second wave of infections and authorities were struggling to curb a surging national caseload. The Italian government has been steadily lifting restrictions since April, allowing restaurants, bars, cinemas and gyms to reopen and permitting freedom of movement around the country. The wearing of face masks was one of the last rules to remain in place. It will not be lifted entirely, the government said on Monday, as people will still be required to wear face masks in indoor public areas and on public transport. People will be advised to continue to carry a face mask with them when they leave home and be ready to wear it outdoors if there is a crowd and for events with higher risk of virus transmission, such as large gatherings. And that was the 12 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online Facebook and YouTube, sponsored by the Sea Champion. Recapping the headlines: government in talks with the U.S. on COVID-19 vaccine donation. COVID cases in South Trinidad remain high. COVID kills another police officer, and internationally, Italy to lift mandatory face masks outdoors as pandemic slows. Stay tuned to the Street 919 FM. I am Vanessa Thomas. To enjoy your afternoon, and please be safe.
News from the street. 919fm.com.